Good evening and welcome to the Monday, April 8th Muscatine School District Board of Education meeting. Madam Secretary, can you please take roll and help us determine the quorum, please?
Yes. Director Connor?
Present.
Cooney?
Present.
DeBeat?
Present.
LaRue?
Present.
Phillips?
Present.
Schneider?
Here.
Sure.
Present.
A quorum is present.
Thank you. Next item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. Carson, third grade class at Mulberry Elementary School. Please stand. Thank you. What a treat. Thank you to Mr. Carson's third grade class at Mulberry Elementary School and all the students. I would like to start our meeting tonight by welcoming all of you, visitors and media representatives, and we go into the next item, which is the public hearing for the certification of the proposed FY25 budget. Do we have a motion to open a public hearing?
I make the motion to open the public hearing.
We have a motion and a second. Madam Secretary, can we have a roll call, please?
Sure. Director Connor?
Aye.
Cooney?
Aye.
DeBeat?
Aye.
LaRue?
Aye.
Phillips?
Aye.
Schneider? Sure.
Aye.
All ayes.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, did you receive any written comments?
We did not.
Did we receive any oral comments?
Did not receive any.
Anyone in the audience would like to approach the podium and talk about this matter? Any board members would like to ask any question? Okay, so since we don't have any written, oral, or anybody here in the audience that would like to approach the podium and talk about that, can we have a motion now to close the public hearing, please?
Make the motion to close.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Madam Secretary, can we have a roll call, please?
Director Connor?
Aye.
Cooney?
Aye.
DeBeat?
Aye.
LaRue?
Aye.
Phillips?
Aye.
Snyder?
Aye.
Sure.
Aye.
All ayes.
Thank you. So moving forward, we move to the Student School Board Representative Report, and I see Trey with us.
Good evening, Yep. Okay, so as we're approaching the end of the year, not much is happening at the end of the school year, but there are still a few things. Model UN just returned from the UNI conference, which was very fun and successful. That was this past weekend. As the spring sports are just starting, we're glad to be ending the cold weather as it's getting a lot warmer outside. And then there are a bunch of some other things happening in the school. In the next week, April 18th and 19th, the musical Freaky Friday will be happening. So get your tickets there at you can pre-order them. Senior Decision Day will be April 26th, which is where seniors can announce their post-secondary decisions. Tomorrow, the ACT will be happening, so good luck to the seniors and the juniors taking that. There's a blood drive this week on Thursday, which many students partake in. And May 1st this year is Day of Caring, which is a lot of clubs and students will go out into the community on May 1st and just do a bunch of volunteer work. Not sure what that all entails, but I just know it's good for the community. All right. And I think that's about it going on right now. So if you have any questions, you can ask me. All right. Thank you.
Anybody have a question for Trey?
Would you be able to just explain just briefly a little bit more about what you talked about with the UN, what you guys did there?
Yeah, so Model UN Club, so we went to New York, Chicago, and Des Moines, and UNI are the four conferences we do every year. So what happens is they give us a topic, and they give you a country, and then you have to find the country's position on that topic, and then you have to discuss it as the UN would actually do. And with the state conferences, you meet a bunch of different people throughout the state, and then the Chicago and New York conferences, there's a lot of international students, so there's students from Europe, Asia, there's a couple from Africa, South America, so you meet a whole lot of people, and it's a lot of debate and writing skills that you have to do there.
Good. Thank you very much.
So you're
Like
saying
that.
the blood drive's on Thursday, this Thursday?
Yep, Thursday. And
Is that open to the general public to come in?
it might be. I know there's a sign up in the announcements that are sent out to high school parents and stuff. There might be something about it on Student Square, which I believe is available to the public. I'm not sure. But if you go to the high school website, I'm sure you'll be able to find something there on it.
Thank you. An amazing report, Ray, as usual. Thank you. Well, good job. Moving forward, the next item is Citizen Speaks. If anyone in the audience wants to address the board, please step to the podium, state your name and address. You will have 3 minutes to talk. Per Iowa code, we cannot respond or engage in any discussion during the board meeting. Anyone would like to approach the board? Okay. Thank you. So moving forward, we move into the board targets, goals report. Item A, students will graduate prepared for post-secondary options. Item B, Muscatine schools will utilize resources effectively and equitably. And item C, students will learn in a positive and supportive environment. Under this item, tonight's topic is the dual language program. With Becky, please.
All right, good evening. As the team is joining me as we speak, it has been a while since we have been here to share information about our dual language immersion program known as DLIP. So tonight we're going to share some highlights, and we have some really a lot of successes to share with you. So first, Corey and Jesse are going to come up.
Hi, everyone. I am Jessie Freers. I am the principal at the Muskie Early Learning Center. So we have a preschool PK4 dual language program in our building.
Good evening. I'm Corey Spees, principal at Franklin Elementary, where we have the kindergarten, first grade, and soon-to-be second grade dual language programming.
So we're going to introduce our teachers to you. They're going to do most of the talking. I do have a brochure that I'm just going to pass around to the board. This is not ours in the making, but it was so good that we didn't feel like we had to make one ourselves. But it has just a few little blurbs about the dual language program and really aligns well with our program. So you can take one and pass it along.
Hello, my name is Noelia Espinal, and I am the dual language teacher at the Early Learning Center. So, do you guys want to?
Hi, I'm Monica Chavez. I am the kindergarten teacher at Franklin for dual language.
Good evening. My name is Jorge Torres. I'm teaching in first grade dual language.
Okay, so first we'll go ahead and start with our mission statement. We started this at the very beginning of our journey. We will provide a culturally sensitive learning environment to ensure our students are bilingual, biliterate, and bicultural. And even just from then, we've talked about how bicultural probably needs to change to multicultural because we have other kids who speak other languages who will become trilingual or multilingual during their journey with us too. Through an emphasis on building a connected community, we will promote high levels of achievement for each student.
So here you can see the timeline of the program. So back in the spring of 2021, we began consultation with Adelante Group. And Adelante was given to us by another district that had recommended this group of consultants to help just districts that were starting out. So we said yes to that, and they have partnered along with us the entire way. In 21-22, our first preschool cohort at Melk began, and then the following year we added kindergarten. And when we started that kindergarten, 68% of our students in the PK4, Noelia's classroom cohort, joined at Franklin. And then the following year we added first grade, and you can see 100% of that cohort from kindergarten moved on to first grade. And here currently, this next year we will have, we're predicting our kindergartners, 65% of the students from that PK cohort will continue. And then our preschool, we're anticipating 94% of our current kiddos that are in Noelia's classroom right now will be moving on to kindergarten, to the kindergarten section at Franklin. So as you can see, our DLIT program started with momentum and it's continued. And we're going to be sharing some highlights of the last 3 years with you. So, Jorge?
This is the program model, and we can see green and blue. In green, we speak in Spanish, and in blue, we speak in English. In kindergarten, in preschool, and first grade, the ratio is 80% and 20%. 80% in Spanish, 20% in English. In second grade, we can see 70 and 30. In third grade, it's 60 and 40%, and the following grades is 50-50.
Language allocation. I'm used to the teacher voice, sorry. So to speak a little bit more about our language allocation, you can kind of see what a typical day in our rooms will look like. My schedule is up there. Anything in green is what is done in Spanish. Anything in blue is what is done in English. Anything in black is pretty much where the languages unite. A lot of social situations take place, and sometimes we do have to break the language of instruction so that kids are able to understand what is going on around them. But that's pretty much my day.
For both Jorge and my class, our schedule runs almost the same as Noelia's, but on the right side you can see the things that we teach in Spanish, which is the green, and then the blue, which is the things that we teach in English. If you look at it, it looks like it's 50-50, but it's not. It's just all of the things that we teach. So Spanish literacy, language, whole group, small group writing, foundational, and language standards, guided reading, social studies and science are all in Spanish. And then in English, then they have their English development also, literacy also, reading, writing, listening, foundational skills, vocabulary development, and all of their specials are also in English. And then
Desenio Mendez. Naomi? So you can speak another language, right, sister? Because I want to learn another language because my dad's from another country that speaks Spanish. Same. I love to do matemáticas. And we get to learn math papers every single day. Hi, my name is Valeria. I like about counting and playing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Hi, my name is Isabella. That we've been reading books and telling stories. Yes, I can read and understand English. Tell people that they need to be really smart because they have to be really smart to go to first grade.
Tú y yo somos.
Hi, we are Victor and Malena Mendez, and we have twins that are in the dual language program, and Mr. Torres is first grade.
Aprendido mucho hablando el español, especialmente contando en español los colores y todo, y hablan más español que inglés hasta este momento.
Yeah, they have come from Miss Noelia's class to Miss Chavez to Mr. Torres. Our kids are fortunate because they are in a bilingual home. Unfortunately, they do choose English over Spanish, just because everything circular is in English. So they do understand Spanish, but they would always choose not to speak it. So that was one of the reasons we opted putting our children in the program. So yes, we have definitely seen a lot more confidence in them speaking Spanish. They know a lot more than we thought they knew. So far, it's been very good for us, for our children.
Sí, recomendamos mucho porque nosotros hablamos español, pero no les podemos enseñar cómo a contar, a escribir, nomás lo básico, y aquí en la escuela les están enseñando prácticamente todo lo académico.
We do recommend it. I also do recommend the program. I think that it's amazing to see how their brains can absorb everything, and they're learning both languages, and they're learning basically all the different subjects in both languages. So I do see a good benefit in it and a very good growth in both of my children with this program.
Vamos a empezar aquí en el número 1. Todos aquí, ojos acá. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 11.
Chile, Chile. Otra vez. Chile, Chile. Y mire.
¿Qué te puedo ayudar? Algo. 14 es 10 más. ¿Cuánto es, Tania? 10 más. ¿Cuánto es, Dani?
4.
Muy bien. Eso es. Good job. High five.
Hola amigos, ¿cómo está usted? Estoy muy feliz de verlo a usted.
All right, well, we've given you a lot of information, and you may have some questions, and so we'd like to open the floor for you to ask any questions of myself, the admin team, or our wonderful teachers that we are so fortunate to have here in Muscatine.
Corey, before any question, I just want to say something. Thank you for sharing the big smiles on those kids' faces with us. So thank you. So before we say anything.
I was smiling pretty good myself. And I took Spanish when I was in high school. And so to think that these kids are getting it now, it's just going to open up so many different type of doors for them. But my question has to deal with, I was not a very good Spanish person. Let's just say that I did it because I had to, when I was in high school. These kids seem to be able to not have that same apprehension and such. But with that, though, what happens if they are not learning the process of Spanish as they go along? How do you do that? Almost like a remedial or anything, or how's that presented?
So I'll jump in here, and obviously anyone can add. So we are at all grade levels doing progress monitoring, not only around the acquisition of language, but also the content that they're learning, right? And so our youngest students are less, what's the word I'm looking for? They're just really eager, right? Yeah. They're less inhibited. And so when it comes to learning, they're sharing with each other. You see sing-song, you see interactions. And so that's part of the picture. I think our youngest students are willing just to jump in there and just go with the teacher, wherever the teacher might take them, right? And so we're looking at that language acquisition, and so we're seeing our students learning in both language, both English and Spanish. So our teams continue to monitor that, as well as monitoring the content that we're learning. So Monica talked a little bit about our literacy, the math instruction taking place. So we're doing that, and we would respond in just the same we would our monolingual students. So we would provide interventions for students who may be lagging behind, and then look at if there is a need for a significant discrepancy, then we'd be looking at what we might implement to help that student succeed, in the same way that we would our monolingual students.
preschool, we look at as more of just like an experimental year. And so we have had a few students that we've had to look at. We've developed a rubric we've looked at to see, is this a good fit for them? Because it's not a great fit for especially English-speaking students. So, you know, we look at some of do behaviors start occurring during that Spanish instruction of time? So some of those things that we've kind of been able then to have those conversations with the families to really determine if the program is a good fit moving forward. I would say most of the students it is, but we've had a few situations that we've had to just talk with families about, you know, your child is special and unique, but this might not be the special and unique program that is the best fit for them.
Thank you.
So I have a current second grader. Oh, did you want to add something
Yes,
first?
and we also learned from an Adelante consultant that they're not going to be at benchmark at either language. So it's going to take a little bit for them to either acquire the English or acquire the Spanish until they can make those connections. And usually you won't see that until maybe third grade, second, third grade. So it's going to take a little bit. I mean, we have seen already some growth with a lot of our students, so it's just amazing. But it's just something to keep in mind. That's what we learned, and we continue to adapt to that.
You just answered one of my questions. So that was perfect. So I have talked to some of you about this program already because I have a second grader, and so I was really sad because he missed it by a year. Otherwise, I would have definitely had him enrolled in this. But my question was with the CKLA curriculum, and as we've looked at adopting new ones, I've been looking to make sure that there are Spanish options. So that, are you teaching at grade level with the curriculums, and do you think that it's working? So you answered a little bit on the benchmark question, and then the second part of that is, how are you administering assessments? Is that in Spanish or English, both for FAST and then your tickets and things like that?
So there's two components for CKLA. We have the skills and we have the knowledge. So, and it is provided both in English and in Spanish. So we do have to supplement a lot because of like adding pictures, visuals for those students, like especially with vocabulary words. And so I find myself like having to adapt to that. So I do have to supplement a lot of that. The skills is very accurate where it should be for Spanish. It's not just a translation of the English. So it's just the skills that should be taught in Spanish. The knowledge, which is the reading portion, it is a translated version of the English. So sometimes it is harder to connect those because sometimes it's better when it's through literacy, when you're teaching a bilingual program, it's better to have something that is similar to the topic, not just exactly the same. So we went to a conference, and that's what we found a lot of the things that says that that's important to have. I forgot the second part of the question.
The testing, are you doing that in English or Spanish or both?
We're doing it in both. So we have, for MClass, since most of the MClass is what we use for CKLA, and since my instruction is mostly in Spanish, I do the MClass groups in Spanish, but I do have groups in English for other students that need it. And then we also do FAST, which is, and we do Progress Monitor in English and in Spanish. So that way we can see the growth and that's where we determine where they need the help.
And I was lucky enough to observe both Monica and Noelia last week because I heard they were coming this week. Very impressive. I was very impressed. But in sitting there since then, I've come up with some questions. Just 20 years ago, I taught bilingual kindergarten, and I don't speak Spanish, so you've come a long way. So Noelia, yours, if I understood right, talking to you, you're SPED, early childhood, and dual language. Yeah. So do you get extra help with like translating IEPs? I mean, that just seems like a huge load.
Yeah, for the most part, I mean, we have AA services that will translate a whole IEP. If I get an IEP in Spanish, then I can pretty much decipher what's going on between the time that we are able to start services for that student. Services then, depending on where they came from, will be done in Spanish if that was the language of instruction they received, and that's what I'm able to do in my room.
Okay. And then, so are all newsletters translated in, like from the whole school, from all the Franklin and I mean,
For my room, yes, I translate my newsletters, snack calendars, anything that I type up, I will send home in
and
both
you do
languages.
that, you do that translating?
that,
The district
yes.
does not have somebody?
No,
to do
I do that.
I also do a lot of the translations. For example, our math curriculum doesn't come with the, what am I looking? The guide, the teacher guide in Spanish, so I am translating on the spot. I use the same thing that all of the teachers use in the district, but I'm translating on the spot because it's not in Spanish. I do have like the worksheets that the students or other work that the students do. It is in Spanish, but everything else is not. So that comes with, again, with the supplementing, there is a lot of translation. All of the newsletters, like before we had the calendars in Spanish, we did have to translate those, so everything that we do have to translate for those families.
Okay. And then, I guess I'm a little concerned. I know we adopted the new literacy program, and I understand, but I feel like I know not a lot, but enough about the whole thing that they lose a lot of meaning in the translation of the stories. Is there another component that can be purchased or added to find stories that are better? Am I saying that right? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes. I think some of the times that we do find stories that are related, and we do use them along with the other ones that we have to use, just because, like you said, some of the stuff is not translated. For example, I'm thinking Christopher Columbus. We have to find stories that they're able to understand, or that I can explain more so that they're able to understand.
It kind of loses meaning in the translation, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, like the vocabulary in the background.
Yes, so if there is no, that background knowledge has to be built, and we have to do that in order for them to be able, that's where all the visuals that we add, all other things that we have to add so they can understand it.
So I guess I'm putting a little plug for you guys, because I think that you're maybe a little overwhelmed with a new ELA series, having to do all your own, and then having to supplement with everything as well. Do you get any, I already know the answer to this, but do you get, I mean, could there be some curriculum rate to get some of these things for them? It seems to me that they're working a lot of hours. I know how many hours you work anyway, but on top of that, and I guess I feel like I don't want to lose good teachers due to burnout, because it's going to be never ending. So I didn't know if they could get curricular aid or how that works.
Well, currently
Work
we
on that in the
partner.
summer.
We partner with Adelante, Amy Mascaro, and I don't know if any of you have met Amy. She's been here. So we contract with her. This year we had 12 days, so she comes to us and spends time in their classrooms. Actually, next, is it the 17th? She's coming, so these guys will be here, and she'll focus on the ELD component. You're going to be focusing on aligning standards. She teaches them the dictation or dictado, okay? I'm learning too, Karen. And then also the bridging, when you talked about translating English to Spanish and then bridging. So she has been wonderful. These guys can talk more about her than I can, but that is something that we directly provide that supports them. They have enjoyed that. They also, in the summer, work with Amy. She comes and provides one-on-one support for them. She's in the classroom modeling. They get to watch. So when she comes, she spends 2 to 3 days with us in our district. So that is something very unique and that we have been doing, 3 years. Yeah. And if we said no more Amy, then they probably would be a little bit upset with Kim. So, but I mean, our teachers that work on curriculum, if it's, if they work on that, they are compensated. They've never voiced to me, maybe they have with Jesse or Corey, that there's a need for something. We've provided them with support. But yeah, they would need to use their voice if they're needing something. I would be remiss if we don't talk about Teresa and Kathy, who are in the audience. They provide support. They also traveled to, where in Illinois, remind me? Moline, to visit a school there. We've done school visits. Also, they went to in Chicago where you purchased all the books. Carol Streams, Iowa, yes, and worked with a company. So we upgraded and purchased an immense amount of curriculum materials, so they had books in classroom libraries. So that was a benefit that they all really enjoyed.
And I think that's great, all the support, but I'm just saying the number of minutes and hours that they have to put in to do those to make this all work, I can't imagine that it's not above and beyond what, I don't know that there is an average teacher, but I mean, I know all teachers put in extra time, but I mean, I feel like I would hate, I don't want to burn out a new program when we have people that are obviously fired up about it and doing a great job. And then I just had, is math in Spanish? Is Engage in?
Math is not. Math is the one that I said that I have to translate on the spot, like when I have to do the lessons, they are in English. So
And I
the
assume-
problem set is in Spanish, but the rest of the lessons are not.
So any additional resources you need to get in Spanish on your own?
Yeah,
I
well,
assume, I don't know.
Yes, and back to your topic of the time that I spend a good 1 to 5 hours a week on top of my time to have to supplement all of that. But I don't know, I mean, do you spend some time?
I think it's maybe not as much now as the first year was definitely overwhelming. Being the only person in the district also doing this was overwhelming. Now I have a little bit more. I think I talked to Monica. We collaborate after hours. Hey, what are you doing for this? Hey, I found this. I can share this with you. So it's just been nice to have that. But I don't spend probably maybe 1 to 2 hours a week translating now.
But when you add that up, it's, yeah. And then do you guys plan to do you have networking time together? The three of you?
That's something that I think that we still are trying to work the kinks out. Being in a different building is different for me than with Monica and Jorge, but I am still able to communicate with Monica when I need to.
And then do you use Zern yet?
CERN is, yes, I do use CERN, and it's not in Spanish.
Is there a Spanish version?
There
I
is
assume not, or we would.
Not on the, because we use iPads, it's not on the iPad. There is a component that is on paper that is in Spanish for CERN, but it will be the same as a problem set, so I don't use it. So they still get a little bit, since they get Progress Monitor for FAST in English, it does help, but they're still missing that connection with, like when they listen to it, those extra minutes.
You brought up a good questions, and one of them, do you guys, is the game plan that you move up with these kids, and then how many more teachers as we go along that are going to need to do this? It won't be me, I can tell you that.
No, so we intend to roll up the program as we share with parents, and we'll continue to roll that up. So as I mentioned earlier this evening, we are looking to add a second grade, and so we are currently looking to hire a second grade dual language teacher for Franklin for next year, and then subsequent years we'll add the grade level. Now, if any of these teachers say, hey, I want to follow this group of students, we can certainly discuss that. What they have done, the cohort of students moves on, and then the teacher stays in the grade level that they've taught. And I think from a planning standpoint, when you start to think about all the time and effort they're putting into a content, they'll probably want to stay in their grade levels if we can, so that they become, familiar with that content to help students.
And part of that challenge is just being intentional on hiring all the time. So we're always looking for somebody who's bilingual, right, and has some of those experiences, so that each year, we're going to continue to add to the program. So it's kind of like, how are we always looking for those things so that we're ready for the next grade level?
And one more question, and that is, because earlier it was fun to see the twins. How many are from families that are Spanish speaking, and how many are non-Spanish speakers? So how does that makeup work for them and maybe at their home life?
Yeah, the goal of the program is to have 50-50. So 50 monolingual, 50 Spanish speakers. And this year I feel like we've definitely done, through the lottery process, have done a very nice job of setting up the room in that ratio. And it makes the program run a little bit easier, that's for sure.
Yes, and definitely we also have, so we have different languages. So sometimes they speak English and Spanish at home. Sometimes it's only English, and sometimes it's only Spanish. So we have those mix. We have that mix of students too. So it's so maybe this year I only have 2 only Spanish speaking at home. I have about 12 that are bilingual, and then I have the rest that are just English speaking. So, but it's about the same in Jorge's class too. It's about the same ratio as I have this year too.
Karen, thank you for asking the question that I was planning to ask. But anyway, one quick question. Corey, next year, second grade, what will be the expectations of number of students? Do you have any, just like a rough number?
Yeah, we would expect, we have heard from all of our families in Jorge's class that they'll be continuing on. So you're at 22 right now, so those 22 students will move up. And then coming in, you know, we do cap at 25 just because we want to be able to give that attention. So I think we started with 25 and we've lost a few students who have moved on. They've not necessarily chosen to drop out of the program or to quit the program. They've just moved to a different area, so.
And that's one of the challenges with the dual language program. So typically, we would look at kindergarten sections at 20. But for dual language, we look at 25 because we know as they move through the system, kids may leave. It happens in every single classroom as kids, you know, grow through the system. But kids come in, you don't place them. You're not going to place a kid who comes in a second grade dual language classroom, right? So we know over time that number could go down. So we start a little bit higher at the beginning to kind of offset that.
But I think having 22 in a dual language class is a very amazing number. You know, as I'm listening to all of you, I'm remembering myself growing up, the same thing in a dual language program where we had to learn everything in my native language, Arabic and English, and, you know, we kept going all the way. I think, I do agree with, I don't remember which one of you mentioned that as they go into the next level or higher level, their ability of understanding both languages becomes much, much better. Because I can speak for myself when I started at kindergarten versus, let's say, sixth grade and so on. So the ability of retaining those both languages will become much better as they grow up with the both languages. So thank you for everything. Thank you.
So I have just maybe 1.5 more questions. If a third grader, let's say, comes in and has no English, would they would be put in the dual language, or do we? No.
No, so we still at Franklin have the EL teacher who works with students who are either older or not, they don't elect to go into the dual language program.
I didn't know if they were totally non-English speaking.
We would serve them
maybe
in
you
a
would
different
put them
way.
in the dual for that purpose. But,
Right.
And then the dual language does not, I mean, it's Spanish and English. So like if we have a French or a,
Correct.
they would use the ELL services.
Correct. Our programming model in Muscatine is Spanish and English, yes.
Okay.
Corey, am I making this up? Are you bilingual?
No,
Oh,
no. I
made it
speak a
up.
little Spanish and very
Okay.
poorly.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah, so
I
I
was
won't be
curious
teaching the
if
class.
you
but-
were pulled into sub often. So what do you do when you're not going to be in class?
So that's a great question, yeah. We have some really great subs, I'll let them.
Okay.
I mean, we have found a couple of subs in the district that we will, hey, you know, I'm not gonna be here, but we do have those contingency plans, you know, whether or not we get a sub that can speak Spanish, we have things that are planned in English to just kind of supplement learning for that day.
Yes, I do have, I also rely on the para that I have in my room. She is bilingual and she's my only support in Spanish that I have. So she's not with me the whole day, but she also helps out because she has to go in his classroom too. So, but she does help when that other teacher that doesn't speak Spanish is there, then she supplements that too. So we do have to leave some plans in English just in case that sub doesn't speak Spanish.
So how much time do you have a para then? I mean, do you just split it half a day?
I would say, well, she has duties too, where she has to do recess duties, so I would say like a little bit less than 3/4, and then she goes with.
So when you add the second grade, will you be looking for a para specific for dual language, or do you, I guess I don't know how that, it's just,
That's something we'll continue to look at in terms of support.
I mean, that obviously would be great, but.
And again, part of that is, you know, being intentional, long-term. It's every position that we're hiring. I know there's been conversations that Corey has had with staff members throughout the district who may already be bilingual, who said, hey, when it becomes an intermediate program, I'd be really interested in that, right? So always kind of looking ahead. And then we're not necessarily talking about it yet, but we're thinking down the road. At some point, these kids, they come to junior high, right? And so typically in these types of programs, you look to make sure you have somebody typically like in a science or social studies, who's also bilingual, and they would teach a specific section. That way kids are still getting some of the language support, right? And that, you know, as they get into high school, there's a lot of different opportunities for them to continue to maintain that Spanish as well. So that's all part of that kind of ongoing planning process that we kind of continually keep an eye on.
I think it would be great to end for the teachers to talk about their shirts. It just kind of speaks to the different cultures that we even have represented with our staff. So if they wouldn't mind kind of explaining their shirts, I would love it.
Well, my family is from Honduras, so we pretty much came up with different different types of foods that we like. So these are all my favorite foods that I grew up eating and enjoying. And Monica?
For me, I am from Mexico, and these are the foods, some of my favorite foods that I have because I have a lot and I wouldn't fit in the shirt.
I'm from Spain. It's Mediterranean food.
And then we have our
Okay, now I have one more question. What dialect do you use when you teach?
They're all different.
So it's like learning 6 languages.
I mean, and we take into, we've had students from Puerto Rico, from Costa Rica, from Guatemala, from El Salvador, from Mexico, Honduras, and we learn the different ways that you can say. So when I'm talking to my student from Puerto Rico, I will say, go hang up your bulto, which is how they say backpack. And if I'm talking to my kid from Honduras, I will say, go hang up your bolson. If I'm talking to my student from Mexico, I will say, go hang up your mochila. So even I'm learning that, and we're learning, oh, you can say it this way too. So everyone is learning, and we are all learning to just kind of accept and kind of learn those differences and appreciate it as we're going through our journey as well.
And it is one of our pillars, our dual language pillars, that the culture, the multicultural, to have that. We also have a lot of books that were provided for us that target all of those different languages also. So thank you for that.
And that's the beauty of being part of the education, right?
Yes.
Okay. Any other question? Thank you. Great presentation. Thank you. Keep up the good work. Thanks. Moving forward, we move into our superintendent updates.
So just real quickly, some quick updates. I think the last time that we met, the AEA bill had not passed yet, and I think it passed the very next day. So again, we're still kind of learning all the ins and outs of that and how that's going to impact us. So what we know about the bill is that it does for AEA special ed services, 100% of the special education dollars will flow to the AEAs for next year. The following year, 90% of the funds would go to the AEA. 10% is retained by the district. And then for ed services and media services, next year is 60% in both of those categories go to the district, 40% stays with the AEAs. So right now, we have an idea of what those funds, the amount of those funds, and I can tell you for our district, it's about $380,000. We're still working with the AEA to figure out exactly where, how that's going to break out. And, again, the intent is to continue to, use those services through the AEA, especially as we get through this year, because the following year, 100% goes to the district and everything is a fee for service. So we're really just trying to navigate that and figure out what's part of the 40%, what's part of the 60%, and then next year, what are all the different levels of services. My understanding is driver's education sits outside of all of that, but based on what we've heard so far, that can continue. And then hearing interpreters falls outside of that, that would continue as well. So those are a couple of unique things to our AEA that not all of the other AEAs have. So again, working with them closely to kind of figure out exactly what those dollars will look like. We do anticipate not needing to send all 60% of our dollars to the AEAs, but what that number is, I don't know yet. We're still, like I said, working closely with the AEA. So as that gets better identified, we'll certainly keep you posted. What I can tell you is there are some things like print services that we really don't use the AEA for. There's a homeschool that they oversee for a number of districts that we do our own. So there already will be some things that will be a little bit different from us for, compared to some of the other districts. So again, as that gets a little better clarified, I'll keep you posted on that. And obviously, they haven't had a lot of time to figure this out either because there were a lot of proposals. So it was hard to determine at the end what exactly would happen for next year. So they're certainly working on that and will continue to communicate with us on that. The other pieces of those bills, so we know SSA was set at 2.5%. That will be reflected in our budgets moving forward. And Tom, as we present that and you approve that tonight, that's built in there. Again, probably was kind of where we thought it would go. And then teacher compensation. So the governor had asked for $50,000. The Senate was less, and the House had something different as well, but they settled on $47,500 for next year, $50,000 the following year. So essentially what they do is look at all your teachers and what you're currently spending based on kind of last fall's report that we submitted. They put you into different bands, and then they assign some additional TSS dollars, that teacher salary supplement dollars, to help offset that, to get those lower categories into that $47,500 range. Now, what I can tell you is we're in a better position than most districts because last year we worked really hard with the association on changing our salary schedule and bumped things up. So we have, you could say, a little bit less work to do to get there. What I can also tell you from meeting with superintendents is some districts didn't get enough money. Now we're, from what we've seen, we will. If you're a district that didn't get enough, they'll come back through and do a second allocation to them to make sure they move that number. And then we're gonna do the whole thing over again next year to figure out 50,000. So again, for us, and again, the other piece with that is teachers with 12 years of experience in education, the minimum was 60,000. Well, based on that new schedule that we have, our teachers are already there. So again, any additional money that we would get through TSS gets split across the whole system. So whatever those numbers are, we'll allocate that out across all teachers. And again, but I think it's going to take a couple of years to really figure out what this is going to look like moving forward long term. And again, a number of districts are navigating that as well. So again, I think we're in a better place than most districts, but there'll still be some things to figure out as we move forward. The other piece of that bill is there was $14 million that was put in there for hourly staff. So that would be anyone who's not on a salary is the way it's been described so far. However, what they wrote in there was the $14 million if appropriated. That means they have to assign dollars to that first, and they have not done that. It also tells you that it's not a guarantee to happen every year. We believe it probably will happen this year because they put it in the law right away, so they'll probably try to make it happen this year. But what that tells us is you can't include that in like a salary schedule for staff, right? You're gonna have to do that as one-time money each year if it gets appropriated. Now, we don't know what that appropriation will look like yet of that 14 million, how much will come to us and how we divide that all up. But that one sits a little bit different than the teacher compensation. So again, we're still kind of working our way through that, and we'll keep you posted on that. But that one, that hourly piece is different from what will be built in and become part of the base for teacher compensation. The rest of the AEA piece, it does have some significant state oversight, and that also includes the elimination of some of the AEA special education directors. So that'll be a kind of an interesting thing. We'll have to see how that plays out. We've got some outstanding special ed directors for the AEAs. Kim Hoffman is ours. We certainly hate to lose her, and hopefully they keep her around as long as possible because she does a great job. So I think there's a struggle for some of those folks that are special ed directors currently with the AEAs to jump into the state positions. Typically that compensation isn't as well, it isn't as good, but also there's not a lot of security in positions at the state level. Again, it'll depend on as directors change, and so I'm not sure how they'll fill all of the state positions that they're going to try to create to offset this. So we'll just have to kind of, again, take it as it comes and then see what other legislation gets passed this year and how that impacts us. So questions first about any of the AEA legislation?
I'm not sure if it's right directly with the AEA, but when you were talking about that 45 million and if appropriated.
14 million.
14, okay, sorry. Hourly money, so that is toward like other type of staff when you're talking food workers and things like that?
The way it has been presented is anyone who is on an hourly compensation plan. Now, again, they could clarify that more and change, because I think initially it was instructional paras, but the way it was actually written, and then initially the conversation was it would be to get people to $15 an hour, which we have everyone at $15 an hour. So again, at least the way what we have been told and the way it's written in the law is basically anyone who's not on a salary.
Okay, thank you.
And then the next couple of things, just quickly, last week we had a second district environment committee meeting. As you'll recall, in that first one, we really spent time developing, we brought people in from all of our buildings who sit on the environment committees related to our daily desired experience surveys. They have built those teams at the building level to address things that the buildings need to improve, and then there's a district committee. And so we spent that first meeting really developing our priorities, which are communication, behavior, and professional development. We met again, like I said, last week, and really dug into those three categories. We'll meet again in May to start building out action plans, but really using that time to, when we talk about communication, what does that mean? What are we doing well? What are the areas we need to improve in? And the same thing for behavior and professional development, so that next month, as we get together and build those action plans, we have an understanding of what we're talking about, what we're trying to accomplish. So they really created some action statements that the action plans will be built off of. So that work continues to move forward. It's been great conversations. The feedback has been very positive, and we'll continue to move forward with that. And really, as I explained to that group, when you think about the cycle of things, we're going to take the next DDE survey in October. The action plans we're developing now will continue to implement through next year. We'll get new results back after that survey is done. We'll typically, by the time we get the survey done, get everything tabulated. We're presenting those to you in January, and then we'll be back with that group reviewing that, identifying next level of action steps. So it's part of an ongoing improvement process that we'll continue to do. So it doesn't stop just because we get to the end of the year. It will be ongoing work. So with that, any questions? And then just a reminder, and I think it's probably in our things at our announcements and meetings, that Thursday and Friday is professional development. So Thursday afternoon, folks will be working in their buildings. Friday is some district level work in the morning, and then all staff together in the afternoon. So we're looking forward to that.
Any question for Clint? Okay, thank you, Clint, for the updates. Thank you. So next item on our agenda is the possible action. The following items are considered to be routine by the Board of Education and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a director so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence from the agenda. The items are 1, minutes, 2, employment recommendations, 3, bills and claims, 4, policies, no minimal required by law, 5, AEA purchasing agreement, 6, resource navigator agreement, 7, agreement with Northwestern College, 8, agreement with Iowa City Community School District, 9, agreement of roles and responsibilities, project search. What are the wishes of the board?
So moved.
So we have a motion to move with the consent agenda, and we have a second. Any discussion? Okay. Those of you who are in favor of accepting the possible action agenda items, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Okay, motion carried. That takes us to item K on our agenda, is to approve certifying the budget for the 2024-2025 school year with a $13.52121 levy rate and budget of $96,194,084. What are the wishes of the board?
So moved.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second, and I see Tom is ready for any question that any of us might have. Anybody have any question?
I'm just going to point out the second page of the document really is the breakdown of our property tax rate, and it is a comparison of the prior 2 years. So it really breaks down. Our property tax rate goes between 3 different funds: general, management, and capital projects. And there is a 4th fund, which is debt service, which we do not levy for debt service in our district. So just wanted to show that comparison. And then at the bottom, there is a graph of the prior year's property tax rate. So any questions on that? Otherwise, that was it.
Any question for Tom? Okay, all those in favor of approving certifying the budget for the 2024-2025 school year with a $13.52121 levy rate and budget of $96,194,084, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. Thank you, Tom. Moving forward, the next item is to approve the change order for Muscatine Community School District Jefferson Addition structural updates for a total of $29,318. What are the wishes of the board?
I'll make the motion to approve the change order for Muscatine Community School District Jefferson Addition, structural updates for a total of $29,318.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Is this different? What's the difference in this compared, what is this for, I guess, exactly? I saw some steel things and.
Yeah, it's just, they had to update some of the drawings once they got in there and tying it back into, remember we had to move the water pipe.
Right.
So in order to do that, we had to figure out a way to change where the water pipe goes to go down through Jefferson. So initially, we're going to go like underneath, inside Jefferson, kind of along a wall, but then we changed it to go up into the ceiling, so it just revolves around that.
Okay.
Any other question? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the change order for Muscatine Community School District Jefferson addition, structural updates for a total of $29,318. Please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Okay, motion carried. Moving to next item, which is to approve the collective bargaining agreement between Muscatine Community School District and Local 1560 Council of ASME for the secretarial, clerical aid, and para-educator unit, bus driver unit, food service unit, and custodial maintenance unit. What are the wishes of the board?
So moved.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, no discussion. So all those in favor of approving the collective bargaining agreements between Muscatine Community School District and Local 1560 Council of ASME for the secretarial, clerical aid, and para-educator unit, bus driver unit, food service unit, and custodial maintenance unit, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. Moving to next item, which is to approve health and dental insurance rates and plan changes for 2024-2025. What are the wishes of the board?
I'll make the motion to approve the health and dental insurance.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Do you want to go through these slides that we have?
Sure.
Now before you vote?
Yes, go through the slides.
Okay. So in your packet there is just a few slides that we're going to go over here. So three things: our health insurance performance, our historical claims and premiums, and then our 24-25 renewal recommendations. Now remember, back on March 20th, we did have an insurance committee meeting that was made up of Clint, myself, Matt is on that, a couple directors, Jamie and Chris, as well as we have a custodial maintenance representative, our food service supervisor, and then we have an MEA person that is also on that insurance committee meeting. So this page, I just want to point out, I have 4 asterisks to point out. First of all, these expenditures for the current fiscal year are through February. Okay, and then if you go down to the figure of 992.83, that is the costs for claims and fixed costs per employee per month. And if you go down to the second to the last figure of 1,186.23, that was our carrier projected claims and fixed costs. And then the amount that we are funding this year is that very last figure of $1,055.87. So to me, what I would say is that our plan performance has been basically on target or doing better than what we had budgeted. And I will also point out the reference for the annual stop loss premiums. We pay premiums of around $1,100,000, and you can see there that last year our stop loss reimbursements were $2.2 million, and through February we're at $870,000. So that just is going to be a point to make for a recommendation that we have next year. So, anything to add, Clint?
No, just, again, that stop loss is an important piece. Obviously, if we're paying $1 million for that coverage and the insurance company is paying 2.2 back to us, they're going to increase that rate. We are also seeing, kind of, and Holmes Murphy does a great job of keeping us updated on this. The industry standard was about 20% increase on stop loss insurance. There were some employers that had no no individual exceed that stop loss and saw an increase in their stop loss insurance. So that, you know, we are seeing that across, but certainly we would expect that given where some of our rates or some of our claims have been over the last couple of years.
Okay, the next slide is just an historical claims and premiums summary. So in the turquoise blue there, that is when the district was fully insured for health insurance, and the gold, basically fully insured for health and dental, those are the fiscal years, and then the gold is when we switched to the self-funding. So I would just remind you that, you know, when we had a stop loss ratio of 70.77 and 80% there, those 2 years, that's when, you know, Wellmark likes that. They get to keep that difference. And so going self-funding, what that really helps Muscatine is kind of take that profit, if you will, into consideration when we're setting our rates and so forth. So we kind of jumped in with health insurance first, and then the following year we did go into the self-insured dental. So those are the premiums in the first column there, in both actual and estimated through 2024, and then the costs, and then the estimated surplus or deficit. So no deficit is expected for this fiscal year. So, and then I would just point out that last line there about should Muscatine had continued on a fully insured basis, that we would be paying premiums of around $7.2 million right now. So that just is, to me, is a good point to keep in mind with where we have our premiums at right now.
I just think there's a number of items throughout this presentation that highlight the benefit of us being self-insured, right? So also, when you look at 23-24, there's an asterisk there for the health insurance, and that's because we expected, if you'll recall, a 10% increase based on claims experience, but we only budgeted a 5% increase. So we were able to manage that cost increase, and we've ended up coming out, well, at least up to this point in the year, we have to get through the more months yet, right? We've done well. So it puts us in the driver's seat in terms of some of these things, and you're going to see some other areas as we continue to, as Tom continues to present. And some people don't realize, you know, again, well, you know, maybe we should stick with being fully insured. If we do, Wellmark says you're going to pay 7.2, and that goes to, I mean, that's what you pay. You don't get to pull any more levers and try to keep those costs down. So again, it has been a great benefit, and will continue to be. And again, you'll see some things here as we move through the presentation.
May I ask on there, on the dental for the 23-24, again, we're not all the way through the year, but that appears to be quite a difference from even the 13,000, let alone the 71 before that and stuff. Is that because of that percentage we were looking at budgeting out then, or?
Well, and dental's a little bit different. There's not as much, you know, I think we have a little more flexibility on the health piece. I will say, I believe that we've seen more and more people post-COVID now going back and using some of those dental benefits. So some of those previous years, we were still coming off COVID. There weren't a lot of people like going to the dentist as much. I think we've seen some of those go up. So again, you're seeing kind of a natural, I think, increase. And again, that's something consistent kind of across all industries, and other districts are seeing similar growth in that.
And we did not change our dental rates from 23 to fiscal 24, but we do have a proposed change here coming up for 25. So,
okay. And again, the fully insured for that, well, $309,900 compared to your.
Correct.
Right. So we would be paying even more for it.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, the next page is the recommendations. So these were reviewed with the insurance committee back on March 20th. And one of these changes affects pretty much everybody on our plan. One affects a few plan members, and then one is basically on the back end, and nobody would really notice what that change is. So we're just going to review the three proposed changes. One is moving to a new pharmacy benefits manager. Right now, it's with Wellmark Blue Cross Blue Shield, so we've had them as a pharmacy benefits manager probably since we've been on Wellmark Blue Cross Blue Shield. But Clint and I learned a significant amount over the last month or so in Holmes Murphy guiding us through a request for proposal for a pharmacy benefits manager. And so we came back and interviewed three companies. You can see them there: Wellmark, Vivid Clear, and Optimum. You know, it would be really hard for me to tell you in any kind of detail the difference between all three of them. We had a summary best and final offer meeting with them, and we are going to be going with Vivid Clear, who is basically a subsidiary, I guess, of Hy-Vee. That Hy-Vee is the owner of this company. So lots of good some savings there with going with Vivid Clear, specialty sourcing options, and then if you want to call it something, well, I want to say bad, but 2 ID cards is what all of our members are going to have to carry. So they're going to have to carry a Wellmark Blue Cross Blue Shield health card, and then a pharmacy card. So,
And Tom, if it's okay, I'd jump in a little bit. Again, we are able to do this. We were able to do this RFP. Holmes Murphy did a great job. They did the heavy lifting on all this. We just kind of, again, we sat and learned a lot. But because we're self-insured, we can do this. When you're fully insured, you don't have the ability to do that. And this is a significant savings. So this will, part of as you look at what we're budgeting for next year, because we've done this, we're not seeing as significant of increase. So yes, a downside would be you have to carry 2 cards. Currently, Wellmark had used CVS Caremark for pharmacy management. And so now we'll maintain our Wellmark as our health insurance, but we'll use Vivid Clear on the pharmacy aspect.
Who are we dealing with when it comes to dental insurance?
And that would be Delta Dental of Iowa.
Delta?
So we're not going to be talking about, we're not changing our dental provider next year. I think for the most part, everybody's been happy. There's the in-network providers in our area, so.
And they have a separate card for that.
Yeah, separate card for Delta Dental. Yep, that is true. So the one change that maybe not everybody is going to realize is increasing our stop-loss deductible from that $75,000 that we were in the first 3 years to $100,000. So we're increasing our risk by $25,000, and we will remain with Wellmark. Again, Holmes Murphy went out to market for stop-loss carriers, and right now Wellmark is hard to beat in that arena. So we will be staying with them. But, I think that's just part of, I suppose, more normal for groups like Muscatine being at that level of 100,000. There are some that would be more. So, but I think making this change now is going to give us some savings in that fixed cost area for that premium.
And again, something Holmes Murphy has helped us with, and they've kind of looked at this over the last couple of years. So essentially, we know what we're going to pay for that $75,000 stop-loss insurance, right? So you're going to add a little risk by you're going to have to cover now any individual between that $75,000 and $100,000. But then you compare that to the cost difference of that $100,000 premium. So they kind of ran all those numbers and said, really, financially, it makes better sense for you to move to that $100,000 stop-loss plan right now.
So the final change is going to be discontinuing to offer the $250 deductible plan. So right now, and for years past, Muscatine has had 3 plan offerings a $250 deductible. When I say that, I mean a $250 single deductible. Of course, it'd be 500 family and so forth. But 250, Plan B is 500, and then we offer a high deductible health plan. And on the next page, it has a summary of those two plans. But so we are going to see some savings because of that risk that our plan has for those those that are on the $250 deductible plan. So as of around, and so that's as of June. So that would be the last. We won't be offering that plan. We have about 96 current contracts that are taking the $250 plan. So that's about 23% of all the contracts that we have. When I say contract, I just mean an employee has the contract, whether they might be single or employee plus one or family, okay? So 43 or 23%. Some of those are on early retirement, so we're gonna have to reach out to those that are, as you know, when you retire from an Iowa public school district, you can, by Iowa code, stay on our group plan, and as long as you pay the full cost of the premium, you can stay on the plan until you reach Medicare age. So we do have employees that do that in our district, and or retired employees, I guess. So we would reach out to them, and that's about, we have about 628 members in our group. So there's 461 contracts, 628 members. So, you know, that, according to benchmarking, that last bullet there, 46% of employers offer one plan, 46% offer two, and 8% do offer three. So it's not like we are just, you know, pulling this out of thin air or anything. We thought long and hard about ways that our plan can save some money. And so you can see there the source of where that information comes from. So that is employers in Holmes Murphy's book of business, I guess. Any questions on that? So the next slide is going to be just a very brief summary of the two plans that we would be offering then. There's that $500 family, $1,000, or I'm sorry, $500 single, $1,000 family deductibles, and there's the out-of-pocket maximums. That high deductible health plan will be increasing per IRS. If we offer a high deductible health plan, they set those limits, so that's going to go up to $3,200 next year. Any questions on this page? A couple more slides here. So this page just kind of, I'll point to the bottom line there about Holmes Murphy and Associates through January, through discontinuing the 250 plan, and we're going to make those pharmacy changes, stop loss savings. This is our 24-25 then expected costs of $5.8 million, okay? And that is just a 3% increase. If you look at the line up above, we might have been looking at the 9%, 9.9, almost 10% increase. So, anything to add to that slide, Clint? Or
no, but again, I think this highlights, this is where you see making some of those moves, how we're able to keep that cost down, right? So, you know, initially it's a 20% increase in fixed costs because of keeping stop loss at $75,000 level. But moving to that $100,000 level, we see the fixed costs go down. We pull some of those other levers in terms of the eliminating or discontinuing the $250 plan, the stop loss savings, and the moving to Vivid Clear, and now we're at a very different conversation in terms of increases. So again, because we're self-insured, we can do that.
So the next page just represents that dental renewal of, and the rates there. It has our census there is on the left-hand side, but that is the 5.6% increase. So the last page is just a summary then of the rates that are before you to approve. Obviously, we're recommending the approval of the health and dental insurance rates and the plan changes. What our next steps are is going to be have employee group meetings to review these changes. So we're planning on having these in 2 different groups, one with, it'll be MEA in one group, and then everybody else will be in another group. We're tentatively scheduling that for April 17th, I believe, for that other group, I'll call them. The MEA is still to be determined just because we haven't been through negotiations yet. So we're going to have that meeting initially with, Holmes Murphy will be there, Clint and I will be there. We'll have members of the insurance committee there to review the changes. What will come up will be the funding mix. We haven't talked about the funding mix, but obviously there's a board and then an employee portion. So that it will be discussed at those meetings. And then our open enrollment for 24-25 begins May 15th. And if you remember, probably don't remember, but we partner with American Fidelity. They handle our open enrollment. Basically, we use their platform. We have every employee has a one-on-one meeting with American Fidelity rep. So during their time, between May 15th and 31st, they'll have that one-on-one meeting. So we'll get this initial group meeting all together, and then those employees that have to make those changes for the plans that they're on can do it during their time. And then that's obviously a time where they can make other changes. And so all of these would be effective July 1st of this year, 2024. So that's all we got, and I know there's
So the last piece I will just mention as well, as you looked at that, that final 3% increase on that $5.8 million of the total cost for health insurance. If you remember, we talked about this current year, we anticipated a 10% increase, but we budgeted for a 5% increase, right? And we're seeing good, strong returns on that. So with that 3% increase, the intent is to budget basically at a 0 or pretty close to a 0% increase. Again, we've been able to build up a little bit of fund balance. It gives us a little bit of cushion. Now, if you start having some years where you're off balance and then we may have to do some things different. But because of all those maneuvers, it puts us in a really good position to, again, do everything we can to keep cost increases as low as possible.
Sure.
And this might fall into that employee group meetings to review these changes that are in the next steps, but has that MEA rep met with district employees that have interest or have had any questions yet?
The one that was on our insurance committee, I do not know that.
I was just curious if this might be the first time anybody's
could be.
seen or hearing this. And then my second question, assuming that these premiums that are listed on that last slide do not show any district contribution yet.
Right. And
What has
so
it historically been?
historically, our district, so for the 2 different groups, for the MEA group, it has changed significantly in the last 3 years where an employee will contribute towards the single plan. So the single $500 plan, I think it's $81 this year. And then it would be a significant amount more for if they chose to stay on the 250 plan. So if I'm in the MEA, I think you would have to really, so part of this group meetings too is trying to educate more our staff on the utilization of how do they utilize their insurance. So if you're paying premiums of, I don't even know the numbers off the top of my head, sorry, I wasn't prepared for that question, but that's okay. They may be paying more premiums to stay on the 250 plan than they would to just be on the $500 plan. And so we're looking at that mixture of maybe being less than what it was this year, obviously. It'll probably be less than this year. But, and then if you choose to be on the high deductible health plan, there is, hopefully, an employee because the board paid the X amount of dollars towards the $500 plan for the MEA group, they would put in a X amount of dollars into a health savings account for those on the high deductible health plan. And again, that would be something that they automatically can set up with American Fidelity, and they don't have to go out and look for a bank to put it into, and it just makes things a lot more smoother. For all the other groups, the board has paid the full cost of the $250 plan. And so going forward, we would still have that paying the full cost of the $500 single plan. And then the board has paid additional dollar amounts depending on what group you're in if you have to choose a dependent plan, whether it's employee plus one or family. Okay?
And there's no contribution then on those dependent plans?
There is a board contribution, yes. There would be this, whatever the dollar amount for okay, I'm going to use the example for all the other groups. $852 for single, the board would pay that towards the family.
Okay.
So no matter what, $852, and then there's an additional amount for dependent.
Okay, and how does dental work?
Dental, across the board the board has paid the full cost of single, and the employee, if they want dependent, then they pay the difference. Sorry about that, I was rambling, forgot about it. But I will expect these questions to come up during our employee meeting, so that is fine.
Yeah, Holmes Murphy did a great job explaining the meeting. I can't remember it, but comparing the $500 plan and the $250 plan and taking them out to their max, they basically equal each other out.
Yeah,
so there's not a.
Obviously, there is a risk that the employee is taking on, but I would also make sure we have American Fidelity communicate our flex spending. So I know a lot of people they don't like to hear the word flex, and they don't, but to learn about it, in case, you're taking on some responsibility for your out-of-pocket costs. And so that is an option, a pre-tax option for you to save for that potential.
Tom, I have a question. I mean, traditionally, do we have someone, let's say a rep from the insurance company, that comes and visit with everybody? For example, a one-day visit. If anybody have any question, they can go.
That is on May 15th to 31st. That is when American Fidelity meets with every employee that takes benefits from our district.
Okay.
Whether there's a board portion or not, they will meet with them.
So whoever has any question, they are encouraged to go and talk to them.
Because we do the best we can to make sure everybody gets a one-on-one meeting. Now,
exactly. Okay. Perfect. I mean, it's important that people will know that also.
I do, just to note, this is not related to our program, but the Hawkeye Health Insurance through the state has significantly increased their household income levels too, and so that's just many staff would qualify for family care too if they were looking at single and trying to just get options. That would be a lot of coverage there.
Okay.
Any more questions for Tom? I think you didn't expect those many questions, right?
Oh, I didn't know what to expect, to be honest.
Any more questions for Tom?
And it can be very confusing, right? And again, Tom does a great job, Holmes Murphy does a great job, and obviously we'll sit down with members and walk them through that as well.
I can remember that when I retired from working in the city with my IPers and that, it was very beneficial because I retired at 62. And so to get to that 65 level and wanting to stay on the insurance, and I missed it by 1 month, I had to pay a little bit myself. That's how much I had in that health savings plan. You know, part of it to make that happen. And so kiddos for anything that we can do to make sure anything will happen for those folks too.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Great discussion. So all those in favor of approving the health and dental insurance rates and plan changes for 2024-2025, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Okay, motion carried. So Tom, back to you. So we
Okay.
go into our discussion and information, and the
Okay.
first item is March financials, please.
Try to be brief. So, March deposit balances are presented, everything is reconciled, so I'm going to, I don't have any red flags to point out in the first 7 pages. So I'm just going to jump ahead to page 8, because that does have something to do with next month, and that is amending our budget for 23-24. This is something that I look at every year. We've pretty much amended our budget every year. Amending our budget does not affect property taxes. It basically says something happened during the year that caused, you know, those 4 functional categories. Those are the only things that you guys entrust me to make sure we stay within what was published last year at this time, okay? So based on what was published, based on what I show as a line item budget, accumulating all those into this document, I'm going to propose that we do amend our budget in 3 of the 4 functional categories. For example, we did have about a $450,000 grant that will likely be done before the end of June. It might go into July, into next fiscal year, but I don't know that for sure. That is the security grant that we got from the Department of Homeland Security, $50,000 per building. So that's kind of needs to be added in there. So I just want to make sure on all 3 out of the 4 functional categories that we're going to be okay in compliance by the end of the year. And so we will be having a public hearing at our May board meeting to amend the current year budget. So that is my report. If you have any questions, you guys know how to get a hold of me. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate that. So the next item under discussion and information is item B, first reading on policies 1, 506.15, parent and family engagement. Item 2, which is a new item, 506.15, parent and family engagement, building level administrative regulations. Any question about any of those 2 policies? And as you know, we remind everybody is that we go through 3 readings for every policy before it becomes an official policy. So meanwhile, if you have any question also, you can connect with Daphne and discuss any question that you might have. But anyone have any quick question on either or? Okay. So item C, review administrative regulations. Item 1, 501.9, insufficient classroom space, which is administrative regulations. Any question on this? No?
We just did this one last year, right?
Yes,
So will we review it annually, or is it?
annually.
I just didn't know if there was a reason it popped up again so soon.
She just asked if there was a reason why it popped up again so soon.
Oh, no, this is just one that
Seems
requires
so very
annual
fresh.
review. Yeah,
Okay.
sorry. And I would point out for the prior one, the parent and family engagement, second half of that, the admin rigs, it says it's new, but actually, we've just taken a big chunk of what was in the pot and moved it to admin rigs, so it's really easier to read is our hope. So,
Thanks for the clarification, Daphne. Thank you. Okay, so Moving forward to the announcements, meetings, and events. April 11, 2-hour early dismissal. April 12, in-service, no school. May 8th, Excellence in Education Recognition at 6:30 at the Mirror Hotel. May 13, Board Community Conversation at 5:30 here at the District Office, 2900 Mulberry Avenue in the West Room. May 13th also, we have a regular board meeting at 6:15 here at the District Office in the 2900 Mulberry Avenue Boardroom. And also May 13th, as Tom did mention already before, we will have a public hearing to amend the 2024 budget when we start basically the board meeting around 6:15, 6:16 here at the boardroom. Any other announcement? Okay, so next item is we need to move into a closed session for superintendent's evaluation per Iowa Code Section 21.5I. What are the wishes of the board?
I'll make a motion to go into closed session.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Madam Secretary, can we have a roll call, please?
Sure. Director Conard?
Aye.
Cooney?
Aye.
DeBeat?
Aye.
LaRue?
Aye.
Phillips?
Aye.
Schneider?
Aye.
Sure.
Aye.
All ayes.
Thank you. Let's take 5 minutes break.